Okay, we're back again. After some consideration, we might just have a look at, go through the trainer guide and talk about the stuff. So as we read through the material, we'll also have a look or have this document open for you guys to follow as well. I think that might be the best way, so we're all on the same page of what I'm talking about, or reading, or going through. Okay, so previously we went through a short little introduction, and now we're into section, or starting the unit, some theory section anyway, of the unit. Okay, the section we're going to go through in this video is identify operating system and hardware components. That's the element. What is an operating system? We already went through that. However, an operating system is comprised of a file system. What is a file system? A file system, or FS for short, controls how data is to be stored and retrieved. Without a file system, data placed on the storage device, it would be very large and chunky for files to be stored on. So they'd be just all, just say, on the C drive. They wouldn't have any sort of order. An operating system divides different files into different folders. There are many types of file systems and how they work. Some file system types are the following: NTFS, which is Windows, FAT, extended FAT, which might be Mac, and Linux is a hierarchical file structure. Unix-like systems assign a device name to each device, but this is not how the files on that device are accessed. Instead, to gain access to files on another device, the operating system must first be informed where the directory tree those files should appear. This process is called mounting a file system. And then we have an example of Windows 10 files and folders and its file structure. Where Kali Linux hierarchical structure has a root folder, and then there's an example of the root folder. And then within the root folder we have directories, and the following is an example of some information contained within the folder within Kali Linux. So bin, which stands for binary or exe or applications, are some basic programs. Boot, Kali Linux kernel and other files required for its easy booting process. So you find boot process information. Device, you find information about all different devices on your current system. ETC, which is configuration files. Home, your personal home files, which we saw we were a home demo, so we were actually in that folder. Library, media, which is mount points, and mount points are sort of like temporary points. Opt, root, the root user's home folder. Run, sbin, services, server host on system. Temp files, and user, variable, and other things. And then we just have a comparison between the two. And in our example, it says ls user bin. Let's see what's in ls user bin. So if we go to our Windows 10 Kali Linux subsystem virtual machine, let's type, what was it? ls/user or usr, I think usr bin, and that's some of the binary files. And I think this is where we find ls. So if we scroll up, we found nano, that's the program we used before, and apt package installer. So we should find ls somewhere in here. And there you go, ls. So ls user bin. So there are all the commands that we can issue to Kali Linux. So if we go back to our trainer's guide, how to install tree command, I might skip that. So how do we install tree command? It's sudo apt-get install tree. How to change to a different directory. To change to a different directory, use the cd command, which we already talked about. You can use command, option, and parameters, such as the following: cd ... which goes back a directory, cd/, which goes to the root folder, and we can go cd, no options and parameters, to go to that actual path. So activity 1.0.1, change different folder techniques and use other commands to view current location you are in. So cd ... goes back to the root folder. So let's have a look at that. Actually, I might just make that smaller. Put that on the side, and let's see what that does. cd/. So now the prompt has changes back to the root. Now if we go pwd, we're at the root folder. And if we go ls-l, we're at the root folder. And if we go ls*, brings up all the different folders. As you can see, it has the var folder, it has the user folder, it has the temp folder. There's nothing in the temp folder. And in the user folder, we have bin, games, include, library. So that's how we know we're in the root folder. ls*, to change to a folder below your current position, you type cd and then the folder name. You type cd home demo. So what's our current working directory? pwd. So we want to go home. So cd/home, and we want to go to the demo 1. So home is actually all the users. So if we added a user and just say the other user was called Brian, we will go cd home Brian, and that lists all the users. But actually, let's just go into cd home. Let's see what users we have in there. ls-l. We only have one user there. So if I go cd /, go back to the root, So we're at the root folder, and if you notice, folder, home. So we want to go cd/home, and we want to go to demo1, and then pwd, where are we? We're in home demo1. User information. To change your password, use PASSWD and then the username. How to switch user, we use SU. How to run a command as a super user. To run a command as a super user without logging off your current account user, use sudo. Activity 1.0.2 User manipulation. How to change your password. So password demo1. And we might set it to ABC. So to change the password of demo1. So PASSWD demo1, current password, and new password. And enter it again. So that's our new password. But I'll repeat the task and change it back to what I had it before. So to change the password is password, and it was ABC123. Current password ABC123. New password. There you go. Password changed successfully. How to change a super user password, which is the root user. So we go sudo su. So sudo, so super user switch, which is su. And the prompt should change red. Now we type PASSWD because we want to change the root user's password. New password. And that's the super user password. Now to exit, we just exit out of the root user because we shouldn't always be logged in as root user. We just type exit and we're back to demo1. So that concludes activity 1.002 user manipulation. How to install software to Kali Linux. What is APT? APT is a tool that allows you to install software to an operating system. Kali Linux calls a bunch of software files as a package. The package might be a zip file or a cab file or an MSI file or similar. How to find all the installed packages. So to find all the installed packages within Kali Linux, we go apt list 2 hyphens installed, and I press enter. And there are all the files that are installed, which we did before. And then if we go apt list, it will list all the packages downloaded. So those are all the packages installed because it has installed next to it. But if we want all the packages, not just the installed packages, we go apt list. And there are all the packages, which is a very long list. And while that's running, apt-get is a command. It's a tool that allows you to install software to the operating system. So apt-get install installs a package. apt-get remove removes a package. apt cache search for a program. So we might search for a program. How about apt cache search? What are we searching for? Tree. Is tree installed? No, tree's not installed. But I think if you get that error, it might be because you need to be logged in as super user. So sudo, no, it must be a parameter missing. Search, no. About search, S-E-A-R-C, search. Well, there you go. Found all the files that have the word search in it. So there's no parameters or hyphens. It's just the word. But if we go ap cache show, there you go. Package name tree, source tree, version 1.8. Architecture, AMD, maintainer, Florin, Stern, and tree. We have a little description. Display an internal directory tree in color. And some other information about the package. So we're in the demo user, and what's our current working directory? Home demo. So if we go tree, sudo tree, that's strange. It says it's installed. Okay, let's just keep reading on. Apt get install tree. Let's try that. Apt get install tree to install a package. Maybe it's not installed actually. Maybe that's why the command doesn't work. So apt get install tree command. And I think it didn't work because it wasn't installed. The package was installed, but the command wasn't actually installed. So now, if we go tree, there you go, that's our tree. So the package is just like a zip file. It's not actually, hasn't installed the command. You have to go actually sudo apt get install tree. Because before we just showed the packages with the word tree. So to install an application from a package, we use sudo because we want to be the super user. So you have to be the super user to install a package. So we use sudo and we use apt-get. We want to get a package and we want to install a command from the package tree. So we use sudo apt-get install tree. Simple as that. And what do we got in our theory? You need to download a package file from a source. In this case, it is from the internet. So to download packages, you get them from the internet. and note test a tree command. So we already issued the command apt-get install tree to install an application called tree from a package, and to test it we just type tree, and that's its output. And we already did sudo switched user. We already installed the tree. How to verify if a function from a package is installed. So to check whether a program is installed from a package, we use apt list -installed tree, and that will give us information. Okay, now that file is from this particular package and it's installed. How to remove a command package like tree command package in Kali Linux. So to remove tree, so we don't want that program, we want to free up some space because we're running low. So tree is not very important, so we can remove it. So to remove a command from the binary file, we use apt-get, we need to be super user, sudo, super user, apt-get remove, remove tree. So remove the tree command. You sure you want to remove it? Yes. Now if we type tree, it's not installed. Now how to check if a command is installed? We use apt list installed tree. Listing done. So it hasn't found anything because it's not installed. So we'll install it again because it's a very handy tool. Apt list installed tree. No, it's apt-get. Apt-get install tree. So we just installed it again. Apt list installed. There you go, it's installed now. Okay. Hardware components. Internal hardware. To find out what hardware components your computer operating system is or has or is supporting, you can type sudo lshw, so list hardware. So let's see what that does. sudo lshw, list hardware. It's not installed. So we might go sudo apt-get install lshw. So I found the package where it's found the application and it's asking, do we want to install that? So type Y for yes. Oops. Type Y for yes. And now it's going to go out, get the package and install it, which didn't work because this version of Kali Linux, not everything works. But in here it says unable to fetch some archives. Maybe run apt-get update or try -fix missing. So if we type fix missing, yes, no, I don't think it worked, it failed. So at this time, unless we upgrade it, it can't install. So for more information, you can type partition information, df. So if we go df, which means partition information. So mount C, because we're running in a virtual machine, this is actually Windows C folder. And the root fs is the root of Kali Linux. Anyway, df means partition information. CPU information. So if we go ls CPU, it gets some information about our CPU. CPU operation mode is 32 and 64-bit. Address size is 32 or 48 bits memory addressing. CPU is using 2 cores. Cores per socket, which means 2 cores. 1 socket, 1 actually physical socket. Stepping 3 CPU frequency. Hyperversion vendor Windows subsystem for Linux. So that's the Microsoft subsystem for Linux. And these are different flags. So if you go to like the Intel, so there you go, model number. Intel Core i7 6700HK. What's HK stand for? It just means it's the model number. In this particular case, the model number means it has 4 cores. 4 cores and 4 threads. And version is an i7 version 6. I think now they're up to version 10. And the frequency 2.59 Hertz maximum of this client host computer. Okay, free. How much RAM do we have free? So if we type free, so memory, we allocated 2 gig of RAM. Swap means once the 2 gig free has been used, it will use the swap disk or the hard disk space, and that's its maximum size, 6. And we used that many bytes and that many bytes of swap disk, and that's how much is free. Okay, what else? Hardware information, or you can use other tools such as hardware information. Let's see what hardware information pops up. HARDIN info. Nothing, because it's not installed. Maybe try sudo hard info. No hardware information. Okay, we did that. No, how to view contents of a file. How to edit a file using Nano. So cat, nano, nl, less. Let's have a look at ls minus l. What does that bring up? ls minus l slash sys. So that's just some hardware information, directory information. So let's run this. practical, activity 105. So we've already done some of those. 3, how to get more hardware information. HW info. So we might type sudo HWINFO. Hardware information. Nothing. So let's see if we can install this program. apt get install HW info. No, because we might need sudo. Yes. Okay, hardware information. It's working. It's installing, and hopefully we can get some more hardware information. Oh, okay, it's successfully installed. So now we can get some more hardware information. So if we go HWINFO, hardware information. So it generated a whole bunch of hardware information. So that's a lot of information. I might just pipe it out to somewhere. So HW, or current working directory, tree. Or we might go to info. So let's go to the info folder. So we go cd info, and we might go hwinfo, pipe it to hwinfo dot txt, and then we type nano, nano, and info dot, whoops, hwinfo dot txt. That should bring up the text editor. So I might, oops, what happened there? Full screen. Full screen. I think it has to be on this full screen. That's better, full screen. And now we can just scroll through. So hardware information. Kernel version 4.4. So we're in the program called Nano, and we can scroll up and down, left and right, and we can highlight debug information. Floppy, no floppy disk. BIOS, RAM, memory address space. BIOS setup, hypervisor. What else do we have? We have information about processor, CPU info, which we already had a look at. What other information do we have? Cache, CPU in Hertz, stepping, model name, model, which already had a look at. CPU info ended, memory size, PCI, drivers. PCI stands for Peripheral Component Interconnection. Basically interface cards, or things that we can attach to the computer. What else do we have? Serial devices, no serial devices. Do we have network? We have a CD-ROM, partition, SCSI modules that we're using are library modules, Microsoft modules. SCSI tape, no SCSI tape. Generic SCSI, yes. USB, no such bus. So no USB devices are attached at the moment. What else do we have? CPU, processing information. Oh, there you go. We have network interface card. Keyboard, KBD, I think is short for keyboard. FB, I think it's floppy, short for floppy. Network card. Network interface name, Ethernet 0. And then hardware MAC address. Ethernet network interface name, Ethernet 1, and the MAC address for that. So we have two Ethernet cards, or internal Ethernet cards, or network cards. CD-ROM, media, floppy, BIOS, mouse, USB, SCSI, plug and play, modem, no wireless LAN, user devices. So that's how we get hardware information. And then it breaks down each component and its parameters. So now we can exit out of Nano, Control X, and we've had a look at some of the hardware information. So I'll exit out of full screen and then set our virtual machine over to the side a bit. So that was hardware info. So we installed hardware info and had a look at the information. Find mount. So does it have any mount points? It should have one mount point, which is C drive. So let's go find MNT, find mount points. Oh, there you go. Mount points. And we have mount C, which is the C drive. And the root file system, which is the slash. So if we go cd slash, we're at the root file system. Now if we go ls slash mnt slash c, I'm going to be able to see everything on my client host computer C drive. So ls actually maybe minus L because I want long listing, and permission denied, so we can't get to some of the files, but that's a listing of the files on C drive. So if we go File Explorer and we go C drive, and there you go. We have recycle bin, the agent, Win agent, document and settings, and then if we scroll down, we have users, and we have Windows, and I think all the other files are hidden. So what happens if we go minus A? No, that's all. Go back. So find mount, and if we do ls and choose, let's go back to find mount. So those are our mount points. So that's what's on our hard disk or in our virtual machine. So if you go find mount, you can find all the different mount points or hard disk drives. Okay, other commands you can try. So we have virtual information. Activity 1.05. So let's go through the list and try some of the other commands we can try. So we have ls PCI, peripheral component interconnections. Can that run? No. Try sudo ls. Nothing. Well, that will list the PCI commands. Let's try SCSI, lsscsi. No. ls USB, list USB devices. Nothing. List block devices, lsblk. Nothing. df. There you go. Disk file system. So root file system and the mount point, mount C, and other mount points which don't have any names. But we have the temp file system. So when we installed a swap disk file, I think that's what that is, temp file system. That's the swap disk, if I'm correct. So what was that? Sudo df. So disk file system. So fdisk. I don't think fdisk will work. Fdisk. It's a utility. Oh, I think it is installed. We just don't know how to use it. Fdisk L. Fdisk -L. Cannot open partitions. Later on we'll have a look at some of these commands, but in this version of Kali Linux in Microsoft from the store, some of the commands don't work. So we'll skip that. Mount, we already had a look at mount. Tells us all the different mount points. But a better command for the mount points is cat. Catenate processes PROC mounts, which is the same thing. 134, 134, and the information is slightly different. LSD, list devices, ls/device. So do all the different devices. Block FD, floppy disk, standard in and out. What was that? List the content of the device. FD means floppy disk. ls mod, display loaded drivers and devices. So let's list what drivers are loaded for our hardware. So we go ls mod. No, we forgot sudo ls mod. None. So we can't view any device drivers for our hardware. View contents on iDrive. Virtual information, cat process CPU. So that will give us process information. So we go cat PROC CPU info. It gives information about a CPU. And if we go process memory, gives us memory info. Bit more detail about memory info. And SCSI are devices like hard disks. Maybe type SCSI one more time. SCSI. No SCSI devices. But this Kali Linux doesn't show that. But there are SCSI devices. Partitions. Oops, wrong spelling. PARTITIONS. Partitions. No partitions. Oh, maybe if we type sudo. No, that didn't work either. No partitions. And if some of the commands don't work, try installing each of these packages. You can type each of those packages in, but I'm going to Kali Tools hardware. I probably installed the first one. So apt-get install Kali Tools hardware. And I forgot to install something I need super user. Sudo enter. Yes. So it's going to install those packages and it's getting them from that source. That shouldn't take that long. While that's working, we might just move on a bit. Activity 1.0.5.2, how to get hardware information in Windows 10. Get version, DOS version, system information. Okay, let's have a look at DOS. Start, run, CMD. Okay, what do we have? PS means PowerShell. DOS means DOS shell. So CMD info. So if we go CMD info, nothing. Or sysinfo, system information, nothing. That's very interesting. Hardware information, VR, version. But if we want hardware information, we can just go to the device manager, run control.exe, and we want system. No, we want device manager actually. Device manager. And there are a list of all our devices. You can click through and go through all those. Device manager. What else? That'll do for DOS. Okay, we just exit out of that. Exit to close it. Let's see what PowerShell does. PS. So we go. Actually, we might have to type PowerShell. P-O-W. Windows PowerShell. And we might run it as administrator. Choose yes, and give it a couple seconds. So our Kali Linux thing didn't work because there was errors, but we might need to do an update. But at least we tried and found some errors, but we'll come back to that later. So just while we're waiting for PowerShell to load up, or already loaded up, we want to issue the command get computer info. Hopefully that works. Oh my god, it's a long list of hardware information. In PowerShell. User, owner, the Windows name, Windows 10 Pro, C drive Windows, the model number of the computer, the brand, ASUS, model number, host name, work group or domain, network adapters, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Ethernet 2, and Ethernet 4, CPU, Intel Core i7-6700HQ, and other information. Okay, so we'll just exit out of that. Exit. So that's our hardware information. Summary. Question element 1.0.1. Which of the following is a type of operating system? Linux OS, Windows 2000 or above, Apple OS X or above, or all the above? The answer is they are all different types of operating systems. Actually, that question is a bit outdated. They're all old operating systems. So the answer is D, all the above. Okay, that concludes element 1. We haven't even started element 1.1. So that'll do for now. I'll stop the video there.